this is probably one of the most highly debated topics we have here in our offices and on the internet everywhere. And it's the difference between the 800 base and the 800 fully loaded and which one is better for you guys. I know John made a video, gosh, it's been years back, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Where it was a comparison between the Weekend Warrior, the 800 base, and the 800 fully loaded. A lot of people in the comments were just kind of debating and trying to figure out like, hey, which one of these actually fits my needs? What's worth the upgrade? What makes this a more viable option? And I think the best way to answer this question is to actually look directly at the 800 series, which is just the plastic 800 base and 800 FL.
There's definitely a lot of key differences here between these two cabinets that kind of differentiates that price. I know sometimes you see it, you say it looks the same, what makes it different? So we're really gonna highlight those features and kind of dive in more in depth about them. So the first is gonna be that the 800 base is going to have one of the 2-foot LED strip lights in it. The 800 FL is going to have two. If you're anything like me, going blind in your 20s already, 2 lights is always better than one. We actually position the lights in the 800 FL, one above the gloves, so you have a front-facing light on your parts, and one above on the roof of the cabinet, so you have an overhead light as well. So this really bounces light around the cabinet in its entirety and doesn't let light fall off in any space of the cabinet. The 800 base, it's just gonna have one on the roof of the cabinet. It's still a great light. It gives you a lot of clear cut and very directional light across the cabinet. You're just not gonna have the front facing light. And the next feature is the regulator. So both of them do have regulators. The 800 base is gonna have a standard regulator. It goes on the left-hand side of the cabinet. So with that regulator, it's a lot smaller. You have to stop blasting to really adjust it because it's on the left side of the cabinet. But on the 800 FL, as you can see, the regulator's on the top of the cabinet and it's on the left-hand side. So this gives you easier access to your regulator. It's a lot bigger, a lot easier to see, and you can adjust it on the fly. So if you're blasting a piece of metal and then you go to a plastic piece, you get to turn your pressure down, you can actually reach up and adjust it while you're stepping on the foot pedal instead of having to stop and walk around the side, adjust your pressure, and go back to blasting. So it really saves you a lot of time. You also have a wiper on the 800 FL. This is probably the most talked about feature on this cabinet.
Absolutely.
Versus the 800 base. So your 800 base is going to have a window rinse, which is great. It's going to rinse down your window. It's going to keep things clear. It runs on a timer. You can go down as low as you want for the duration of seconds between sprays and how long that spray lasts on your timers in the electrical box. But on the 800 FL, you also have an added benefit of a wiper. I always kind of explain this to people and tell them to envision driving down the road in a rainstorm or a thunderstorm. You know, not using your wiper, the water's just going to kind of go on the windshield and sit, versus using a wiper, which is going to clear it off. So it gives you an easier sight line to look into the cabinet and really see your parts. The fourth main difference, and we just made a video on this, so click the link, is the pumps. This video goes more in depth about the difference between the pumps. On the 800 FL, you're going to have the upgraded pump with a polyurethane impeller. The 800 base is going to get more of a standard pump with a plastic impeller. The high volume pump is going to give you a little bit more durability out of that impeller. It's going to be a little bit higher demand. So for those of you asking questions, these are really the 4 core differences. There is, you know, a couple other differences there. Maybe the electrical box is a little bit bigger, but those are your 4 key physical differences that you're going to use and see on the cabinet.
A good way to think about this is to envision it kind of like you would trim packages on a car. So for instance, one car might have a certain motor and the next trim level up might have a different motor. That's kind of how you can think about the pumps. There's going to be different features and benefits as far as like the cameras and whatnot on a vehicle. That's kind of how these cabinets are broken down. And it really goes down to what you guys actually need. If you know you're going to be blasting larger parts, the FL makes more sense because of that added lighting. You guys are going to get better visibility inside the cabinet. But if you're not blasting at volume, or if you're blasting smaller parts, the base makes a lot of sense because it does save you some money. So It really just comes down to what features and benefits you guys need in your shop, home, or business when you're actually going to be processing these parts. And it's something that we can actually help you guys determine what you need. And our number is 828-220-5012. You guys can reach us at any time and we'll be happy to help you determine which machine you need for your shop.